One of the best ways that you can make sure you make tons of money with land is to know how to increase the value of land. Now there's 5 different ways that you can increase the value, and in this video I'm going to go through all 5 of them so you will know how to literally 10x the value of your land. Increasing the value of land is obviously one of the best strategies you can ever pursue to make money. Now there's short-term increases and also long-term increases. Now we're going to go through both of them right now in this video so you know what some quick things you can do to double the value of your land, but also some things that might take a little bit longer, a year or 2 years, but that literally can 10x the value of your land. So let's jump into these things right now. There's 5 different ways to actually improve the value of your land. As a matter of fact, I'm going to give you 6. There's a 6th bonus way that I'm going to give you at the end of this video. But bottom line is, some of them are very, very quick ways to increase the value of your land, and some take a little longer. So the first way that you want to increase the value is something very, very popular that you can do that takes the risk out of the buying decision for the buyer. And what are some of the risks that when a buyer buys a piece of land, particularly if that land is not an infill lot, if it's not in the city, but perhaps it's a little bit outside of town where there's not yet city water and sewer? Well, one of the questions is, how do you deal with the septic system? How do you deal with the bad waters, with the toilet water, the kitchen water, the shower water, etc., etc.? Well, the best way to deal with that is by having a septic system installed. Well, the problem with the septic system is that it can only be installed if the land passes what's called a percolation test. A percolation test is basically a test where you dig a bunch of holes into the ground on the property, and a licensed company needs to do that, and then they fill that hole with water, and they measure how fast the water sinks down. And if the ground absorbs the water fast enough, it passes the percolation test, which means you can put in a standard septic system. Now standard septic systems, depending on the size, start as little as $5,000, can go to up like $10,000 or $15,000. So it's an affordable way to put a wastewater system onto your property. And by the way, septic systems are not just for mobile homes or cheap kind of properties. I live in a 7,000 square foot home on an acre. Our house has a septic system. So it's being used in multi-million-dollar properties as well as in mobile homes. The key though is if the percolation test fails, because perhaps the ground is underneath the surface is like hardcore rock and the water just doesn't go through, then you're faced with a situation that you have to put what's called an alternate septic system in place, and that one could cost as much as 30, 40, 50, or even more thousands of dollars. So obviously that puts a lot of risk into a purchase decision for somebody who wants to perhaps build the home of their dream or just want to put a simple mobile home on the property. So one of the things that you can do before you actually put the property up for sale is you can have a percolation test done that checks if the property passes the perk test. If it passes it, now you make a big deal out of it because you just took a lot of risk out of the transaction for the buyer, and that means that the property is now worth more because somebody who's not sure if it passes or not is not going to pay the full price for it. Once you know it passed already, you can ask for a much higher price for the property. The second way to improve the value has to do with the exact same thing: water. Now, instead of wastewater, let's talk about fresh water. Well, if the property that you're dealing with, perhaps it's outside of the big city and it doesn't have water to the property yet, well, how does somebody get water to it? Well, number one, you can either lay a pipe to it, which could be very, very expensive, but you can also look at the water levels in the area and see if it is a feasible option to drill a well. Now, I'm not saying you should be drilling a well. What I'm saying is you should do the research so that you can provide the buyer with the information of what it's going to take to build a well. Obviously, if you're in Florida, wells are like 3 feet down. If you're somewhere in Arizona, wells might be 3,000 feet down. So knowing how deep the water levels are is actually something that is absolutely crucial for your ability to sell the property for more. So how do you do that? Well, if you're in an area where there's not city water, what you can do is you can call the state's Department of Water Resources. That's how this department is called, or something similar to that. So you call them and you ask them, hey, I'm looking to buy this property. Or if you own it already, you'd give him the exact details of the property, even if you have it under contract. And you ask him to give you an estimate of how deep the water levels are. What they're going to give you is they're going to give you the information about the closest wells in the area. Because isn't it possible that 2 miles over somebody drilled their well, and 3 miles over the other way somebody else drilled their well, and 5 miles over this way somebody also drilled their well? Well, if you have the information about 3-4 wells in the vicinity of this property, and each of them are at 100, 120, 80 feet, then chances are the well in your property, the well depth is also about 100 feet. Now, the next piece of information is that you need to know is how much does it cost to drill a well? Typically, it costs between $20 and $25 a linear foot or a vertical foot to go down. So if you have 100 feet to go, then a well might only cost you $2,000. Perhaps some setup fees and so on. So it might be a $3,000, $4,000 well. That's not too bad. Again, if you know that, and if you have the hard information of how deep the water levels are, you can put that in your ad, you can put that together with the information, and now you removed more uncertainty from the buyers, and you give the buyer a blueprint to doing what he wants to do on the land, to building a house, drilling a well, getting a septic system in place, and he has the full picture, and if you provide that, guess what? You can sell that property for more money. The third one is electricity. Now, I know we live in a world where solar is all over around and you can use solar and so on, but still, did you know that in some areas, the electric company will actually pull a line to your property as long as it's less than a quarter mile? So right there, look around your property, where's electricity? If it is within a quarter mile, and then reach out to the electricity company and see if they're willing to do that, and if not, or what that would cost. And again, you have extra information. Now, if it's a premium property, you might take all 3 things that I talked so far and actually implement them. You might have the percolation test done, you might actually drill a well, and you might actually bring electricity to that. And if you do that, boom, you just probably 10x the value of that property by doing it for the buyer. But even if you just get the information, it will increase the value of your property. Now let's talk about some things that actually might take a little bit more, but that literally have the ability to 10x the value of your properties. The first one is subdividing land. So subdividing land is obviously a great strategy, particularly if you have a larger piece of land. So let's say you have a 20-acre piece of land that you have under contract or you own a little bit outside of town, and it has roads all around it. Well, if you can take that 20 acres and break it into, let's say, 5 4-acre parcels, chances are you can take each of these 4-acre parcels for way more than you would have been able to sell them as an individual 20-acre piece. So the 20 acres might on its own sell for $100,000. By breaking it into 5 4-acre pieces, you might be able to sell every single one of these 5 pieces for $75,000, and as a result, 70 times 5 is $375,000. So instead of selling that 20 acres for $100,000, you just sold 5 pieces for $375,000, almost realizing a 4-fold increase in your proceeds and in your profit. The fifth one, I kind of already covered, and that is obtaining land entitlements. The word land entitlements really means making the property building ready. Because a piece of land sitting out there with no water, with no sewer, with no septic, with no electricity, is just a piece of land. But once you bring all those services in, you can literally explode the value of that property. It's not uncommon that a piece of land that on its own is worth $100,000, once it has all the utilities and all the things ready to go, is worth $1 million. So right there, by bringing those pieces together and actually putting them in place and having the property ready for a builder to come in and build a house right there, you can massively increase the value of your properties. Now, of course, depending where it is, you do what I said just earlier. You go bring in the well and those kind of things. Now, of course, if it's in the city, the game changes a little bit because now you got to work with like the big engineering firms to bring in the water, to bring in the sewer, to bring in the septic, to bring in the electricity. But when you do that, again, the value boost is out of this world. All right, so before I give you the number 6, the bonus way of massively improving the value, which one of these 5 is your favorite? Drop a comment right now. Okay, with that said, here's the bonus one. And the bonus one is really the one that takes the longest time, but the one that really crushes all the other ones. And that is rezoning the piece of land. Now, rezoning a piece of land is also the most difficult to do, because when you rezone it from, let's say, agricultural to residential, from residential to commercial, from commercial to industrial, you're often fighting some of the neighborhood crowds of the people that live there. They don't want that. They don't want more traffic. They don't want it to go from single family to multifamily. So there's like neighborhood groups that rally against it. They don't want more houses. They don't want more traffic. They don't want more people living there. So it's often a little bit of a headwind. Plus, you really have to convince the city to actually allow you to rezone it. So here's the fastest way and the best way that you can rezone a piece of land. Ask the city what they want to see in that area. Because the city's going to tell you, they say like, yeah, we would love to have more apartment complexes here. Or they would tell you, we would love to have more industrial here. And then you go and say like, well, I got this piece of land here. Would you be open for me rezoning this and support this? And they'll say yes, because you're giving them what they actually want. Now, with that said, a rezoning process is a long, drawn-out process. It requires engineering and drawings and hearings, and it might take 18 months, and it might cost you 6 figures to actually do it. That's why it's the bonus one, not one of the quick and easy ones. But if you do it, you can literally take $1 million property and make it worth $10 million. I'm not kidding. I've seen it. I've seen people taking $1 million properties and taking them to $15 million and walking away with something like a $10 or $12 million profit, even after paying off some stakeholders in the process. Now, stay tuned for that, because there's going to be more videos where I talk about this bonus way on its own. Now, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe right now, because as I just said, there's going to be many more videos, and some of them even cover these exact strategies in detail. See you in the next video.